What's the drilly? What's the drilly, man? It's your boy Sav, aka the Savloke. You tune in to Savloke's Hood Tales, man. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Hit the notification hit the notification bell if you down with the movement. I'm kind of tired right now. I can't even speak, but it is what it is. Before I start this video, let me put it out there like this, and let me make myself clear. No way, form, shape, anything like that am I promoting gang activity, gang banging, promoting it to the youngsters. I'm not doing it. That's not me. This is just a testimony in my life as I speak, just off of my experiences. I try to actually push success and good things on youngsters, man. If I could actually shine a light on this lifestyle to a youngster and help him make a decision to go down the right road, I'm all for it. Because if it was me when I was younger and somebody did it for me, I probably wouldn't even been gangbanging. I probably would have played sports and did different things, but I never had that. So if I could do that and take the opportunity to do it for a youngster myself, I'm going to do it, man. I'm going to always push somebody to push for success and be successful instead of going down a life that's destructive and there's no benefits to it. And it's a crazy lifestyle, but it is what it is. So I'm gonna start doing these recommended videos. Big shout out to Evo Dork. He recommended this video. He asked me to do a video on it. So to everybody else too, man, if you ask any questions or you want me to do a specific video, I'll do a recommended video for you. You know, try to shine as much as light as I can from what I know onto some content and put it in a format that you may not understand at first, and try to give some insight to it. Because there's a lot of people, you know, I see the interactions, and it's cool to see the interactions that may not come from this lifestyle that, you know, it's kind of curious, and I could shine some light to a point they can see and maybe get a different view about it. Because a lot of people may not be intertwined with this lifestyle, you know, and that's not a bad thing. People are curious. So the homie Evo Dark, he had hit me and told me to do a video on has Savage Savloke came across any Norteños on the yard when I was doing prison time, and what was my interactions with the Northerners. So I explained kind of in past videos, I don't know if it was on this channel, Denver, Colorado, the metro of Denver, where I'm from, East Denver, but all the Denver metro. You didn't really see when I was growing up, and it might have changed now because there's so many different gangs out here in Denver, but you didn't really see the politics of Norteños and Sureños and Southerners and Northerners. You know, you didn't really see the politics of them. I didn't really see them, and I've been in the streets a long time. I know, you know, there was word, and there's still word to today when I tapped in that, you know, there's actually some South Side hoods from California that came and rooted out here, like Florencia, and then you had, you know, Tortilla Flats. They rooted some of their hood out here. But they're like south. They're south. And I really, you know what I'm saying? In my days, I really only had interactions with the South is when I was living in the Westwoods, and I would creep through the Westwoods, but I didn't really, you know, see Sureños like that. Oh, I guess I did see Sureños in an apartment complex. They had a stronghold on South Federal by the Jumbo's car wash, but that's still the West Side, and they didn't really make a lot of noise from what I seen. Norteños, I really didn't see Norteños growing up. What we seen out here, there are North and South gangs, but they don't bang Southerner or Northerner. They bang their own, you know, their own roots. Like on the North Side, you'll have North Side, you'll have the NSMs, North Side Mafia 44. They wear black rags. Well, that's original color. You'll have North Side Criminals. North Side Criminals, they represent the blue rag. They're a North Side gang that represents the blue rag. You got North Side OGCs, another North Side gang that represents the blue rag. You have North Side Criminals, North Side VGVs. Those are like paisas. The Quintalomas, like paisas. They're like North Side paisa fools. What else is over there? The Northside Hitmen. That's like a OG gang. I don't even know if they represent, like, I think they represent white rags, you know. So you didn't really have the northerner presence. Even with them gangs, they all represented different rags. They didn't represent the red rag. The South Side, you had, you know, original South Side Denver gangs like Southside Stills, the Westwood Hoods, the South Side Homies, and though, you know, they didn't have nothing to do with Sureños. That was just South Side Denver gangs. So that's kind of what we see out here. But I know outside of the Denver Metro, and when I say the Denver Metro, I'm talking about all of the Denver Metro, anything that's connected to the Denver Metro, outside in other little cities like Pueblo and, you know, Greeley, Colorado Springs. Those cities are still 2 hours, 1 hour, you know, outside of Denver. You heard about Southside gangs, and I went out there and they had like their own Sureño gangs. These are Sureños. They take on the Southerner, you know, politics. So you'll have like the Dukes, you'll have Spruce, you'll have Bessemer Locos, you'll have, you know, Pine 13s, you'll have the Pueblo Sureños, you'll have Colorado Sureños, and then in Greeley they have that's north, that's way north. You'll have their Sureño gangs in Greeley, but these are little city, these are like way little cities way outside of Denver. And I heard that, you know, there was Norteño gangs out there in Colorado Springs, and, you know, VNTs, Vadio Northtown, and this out in them little areas. But you always heard there was Sureño politics, and the Sureños outnumbered the Norteños in them little areas. Norteños was not really big, so you didn't really see their politics. So when I went to the penitentiary, first thing that I actually learned is that when it comes to the Mexican gangs, the Sureños are going to be probably the more deeper Mexican gang, and because they're all over all them little cities, they get on the yards, and first thing I heard is, you know, they push their power, you know, when it comes to that politicking, and they act up on the yards out here. You know, they act up because they got them numbers. So, you know, I really don't know anything about that, but I hit the yard and I learned fast that the Southerners were one of the deepest Mexican and Chicano gangs, you know, Spanish gangs on the yard, the Raza, La Raza, you know, and they're militant, and, you know, how they run their car is they got mandatories, everything, mandatory workouts, mandatory, you better be at the yard, mandatory, you better shave your head, mandatories. And they're, you know, they have a good presence about their self. You know, with me, who I am, you know, dang right, they didn't like that. So, you know, first year on the yard, I was fading out with a lot of the Southerners, but the homies had the back, and, you know, it turned into sometimes group fights, and it was a little bit of wars, and they had to respect it because I was down to ride for my beliefs, you know. And I'll get into, you know, my interactions in prison as a Spanish loc, you know, and what I had to go through, because I went through some shit just to be who I am, just to be on that yard and survive. I had to handle myself. But let's get back to this video. And on the yard, and when you hit the yard, first thing you hear is that the North Side and the Norteños, they have a hard time on these yards because the South Side fools and the Southerners, they do not allow a lot of Norteños on a lot of yards out here in the DOC in Colorado. And Norteños have like 2 yards where they're safe, where they're cool. And that's like Territorio. And then I heard that Walsenburger, and that was a private prison when I was doing time. But they have it hard. Sometimes they say it's a no Norteño yard. I happened to hit Crowley, and then I went to Fremont Correctional Facility. When I went to Fremont Correctional Facility, no, there was a couple Northside gangs on Crowley, but when I went to Fremont Correctional Facility, and this before it it actually trans over to being a yard that we all know as not a good yard. It was 60-40 general population, and that yard right there, the Sureños eliminated any Norteño and any North Side gang. So just having the North, and it was crazy because you'll have actually North Sureños from North Side cities and stuff, like in Los Angeles and different things. But that yard, that was a no Norteño yard. No Norteños were allowed on that yard. And if you were a North Side gang from Denver, you had to go through it. They just couldn't check you off the yard, but you had to go through some crazy stuff. You were going to take multiple fades. The way that they, the Southerners, the way that they actually conducted their business, they did not care about your feelings. They had a 4-on-1 rule. So if you were a Norteño, they actually would hit you up and be like, where you from? You from Norte? Now you got to get off the yard. You got to cover your tats, or cover your tats and denounce the North all the way around, or you have so much time before you get packed out. And the Sureños were coming at the Norteños' heads 4-on-1. I had a homie. He was from Oakland. He came out here to Denver, and he was kind of on the CXIV. And if you don't know what the CXIV is, basically some of the gangs, the northern gangs in Cali, they roll with some of the Crips out there, and they actually linked to beef with the Sureños. He came out here, and he had some family that was family with us, and automatically he showed the homies love out here. His name was Cisco, and he rode with us, and he was a rider. That fool was a rider out here on the streets. Well, he hit the yard, and I seen him. And as soon as I seen him, when he came through the chow hall, because back where I was, you come from where he was in Unit 5, and that was the intake, and you had to come to the same chow hall the general population was. So we got to see all the new fools coming through. And I seen him in that line. I said, fudge, bro, because he actually was a cool homie on the streets. I said, I need to talk to you ASAP. Fools are like, you know, in the chow hall, seeing who's new, seeing if they see any of their homies pulling up. I said, go to the night chow. I gotta talk to you ASAP, bro. Because I knew as soon as the Sureños got word that he was on the yard, they were gonna start tripping with him. So I got him to the yard, and I said, hey, fool, you know this is a no Norteño yard, and them Sureños there's already word that you hit the yard. And he's like, for real? And I said, yeah, because they don't play on this yard. Like, they're checking anybody that's from the north off the yard. They said, what should I do? I said, so what are you doing? Are you politicking? What are you doing? He's like, I'm just trying to get home. I said, well, the best bet, homie, is I'm going to see if the homies can buy you some time to get stuff situated, but they're going to trip off your tattoos, and they're going to make you cover them up. And he's like, hey, bro, see if your homies can actually, tell them fools that I'm riding with you. I said, I could see what I could do, bro. I don't know if the plans are going to go through, because in there you can't really, he's from a different politics, and me being his homie, even I couldn't save him like that. You know what I'm saying? So sure enough, the Sureños get word, because, out here too, man, new arrivals, they get information through the laundry porters who's coming to the yard and who's come. So everybody already knows who's coming to the yard if their homies are coming to the yard, because everybody be checking like, oh, the homie's coming to the yard. So they already know who's pulling up. Somebody knew he was a Norteño pulling up, and pretty much they approached him, and they were like, hey, homie, we heard that you from the north. We heard, basically they called him a buster, and they were like, you still banging, homie? And he's like, I'm just trying to get to my family. And they were like, well, you have 2 hours. Let me see. They seen his tattoos. He had the bird and all that. And they were like, you have 2 hours to cover that up. And he was like, hey, man, go talk to Ray, the fool that had the keys for us. And he's like, I talked to him. So the Sureños had hit us up and was like, hey, he's saying that pretty much you guys actually mess with him. And Ray was like, yeah, he's the homie Sev's peoples. And they were like, wow, he needs to either cover up his tattoos and he needs to ride neutral and stop banging, or he's getting shipped off the yard. Well, Ray was like, he let me know. And like I said, we only could do so much because he's not a part of our politics. He's like, tell your homie, the Sureños, basically, they're saying that he has to cover up his tattoos. So I said, okay, bro. I told him. He's like, I will. He didn't do it. The next day, first thing in the morning, they ran in on him with 2 shanks and they hit this fool. Boom, boom, boom. Airlifted him off the facility. So it was bad on that yard and mostly every yard that I've been to. One yard, another situation, one yard, I did see them actually have a little power on the yard. It was a lower risk yard, the minimum restricted, Trinidad. I rode up to that yard, and this was after doing time on the level 4s where it was no norteños. I rode up, and I'll pull up in the unit, and they send me to a sow. And when I get to the sow, we ask, where are we from? We chop it up. It's this fool named Shroom. He's from the north. I said, what the heck? Because I'm not used to that. And he's like, yeah, there's multiple my homies on the yard. And I said, for real? Because I'm tripping. I just came from yards that no norteños were allowed to be on the yard. And he was like, yeah, we have a stronghold. I said, how are you guys doing that? He's like, well, we formed this thing called the Denver Car. And the Denver Car was pretty much all the Denver-based and norteño gangs came together as one to beef with all the sureño gangs. And when all the Denver gangs came together, they actually had enough numbers to equal out to the sureños. I said, that was smart. Very smart move. You know, but you can't, when you're politic and you can't really intertwine all the politics together, because every politic is going to be different and you're going to have in-house friction, especially because not everybody's trying to follow order from one hood. So, you know, the sureños were coming on the yard and the norteños and the Denver Car was actually making it hard. But what their mistake was, they had the upper hand. There was not a lot of sureños on that yard. They should have actually made a statement and they should have actually got at them fools pretty vicious, but they didn't. They would actually make them fools fade up every time, and there was a lot of sureños getting beat up, but they would have to get shipped off the yard. And then the sureños, it flipped, because in there it's constantly people leaving, pulling up. The sureños, I think one day I looked at the intake and they were coming up, and there was like, I'm not even lying, there was like 10 sureños that hit the yard at once. You know, so the sureños that were still left on the yard, as soon as they seen their homies, it was over, bro. And then the sureños came to the yard, they got their numbers up, and sure enough, 2 days after that, you know, the sureños that were not even banging, them fools went out to the yard and they actually rushed the norteños, and it was a big old fight. They cleared the Trinidad yard with them fools, and where did they ship fools? They shipped them to different facilities. And like I said, the norteños were not good on all of the facilities. There was only a certain handful that actually could survive. So that being said, yeah, bro, my interactions with a lot of, you know, anybody that was even from them politics, the norteños really got the blues. They got the blues in Colorado DOC, man. And I heard it's different now, though, bro, just because I guess some truths, I can't speak on that, but I heard, you know, the sureños and the norteños ain't really tripping out here no more, and everybody is like, they kind of just like squashed a lot of the beefs from the higher ups, and that goes like that. One more story, and I'm gonna end this video. I go to a program, Cheyenne Mountain. It's called the CMRC program, and it's kind of like a program re-entering you into society after doing a lot of amount of time, and it helps people get on parole. It helps people parole early. So it's called the Cheyenne Mountain program. I hit the Cheyenne Mountain program coming from a yard, and this is not really a yard. This is actually a program where you go to classes, and you're still in DOC greens and stuff. You still got a number, but like, you don't have, you know, a yard, you don't have lockdown, this and that. Like, you're in a community. Even the cells are different. It's like a 12-man room, and you do morning meeting, you do classes, like re-entry classes. So it's a program to actually get you ready to re-enter in society if you did a long time. So I go to the Cheyenne program, and I'm like, this is weird, because I pull in, I go into the room, and in the rooms, there's bunk beds, and you know, you have 12 men in that room. You share a room, you share the community, and in the room you had in that room you had at least, I promise you, out of the 12 you had about 9 fools that were Crips in there. You had some black GDs, and then I seen the Mexican homie Nutcase, and he was from Northern Cali, and he was Norteño. He had ties to the NSMs, like that was some of his family. But he was on that CXIV, and the CXIV was the fools that linked the Crips and the Norteños to beef with the Sureños in Northern Cali. So as soon as he see me, and I'm Spanish, and I'm from the Spanish descent, he was like, "Oh, what's up?" And then he locked seas with me, and I was kind of like, "What the heck's what with this?" He's like, "Yeah, bro, I'm on the CXIV trip. Like where I come from, the Crips and the Norteños get along." And I was like, okay. So, he rode. Wow, the fool that had the keys for the Crips in there, the Keyways, he got a hair up his ass, and he wanted to move one of his homies from 33rd, Trey Gangsters, up to the yard, up to the room. Nutcase had been there for a while, and he wanted to take Nutcase's bed and give it to one of the Crip homies, while Nutcase was an OG fool. So Nutcase was like, it ain't happening, while Mix was this big old bully. He was like, it's happening. So they went to the chow. Nutcase told all the Norteños what was going on. All the Norteños in the unit, they acted like they really wanted, to get it up. We go back to after chow, and I remember sitting in the pod, and I look at the door, and like you get buzzed in, and I remember seeing one Crip, 2 Crips. I remember seeing a line of Crips just come from other floors, and they came in and filed in, and they, and I seen them fools do dirtied up. You get gloves in there, and I said, oh, these fools are coming to trip. While Nutcase went to go get, some of the Norteños. Nutcase comes down the hall, and I'm like, where's the Norteños out? These Norteños, bro, left Nutcase to actually, if the Crips really wanted to do him dirty, they could have got at him, but they left him on his own. The Norteños didn't even follow because there was too many Crips. I think that's what it was. Nutcase didn't give a care. He went in the room, and Mix had enough respect to let him get the heads up. They didn't jump the Norteño fool, Nutcase, and they got the heads up. After that, Nutcase, the fight was over, and I was watching the TV, and I was chilling, and all of a sudden I see like 3 Norteños in a row run to the vegetable, and we're like, my life's in danger, Nutcase, I seen him. He came out with, and he had the blade. He was taking off the Norteños off that floor because they didn't ride for him. And Nutcase, man, that fool's a rider, bro. So to sum it up, if you were Norteño out here in Denver and you in Colorado, the system, you either going to have to be a real killer, because you hear about some Norteños, but that's like Cherry and, this fool named China and all them fools. But they really, every time they get out, man, they have to stick a Southerner because, the Southerners really be tripping. So that's kind of my interactions. That's kind of my details of what I remember. So yeah, like I said, man, people know what they sign up for, bro. And, one last story, bro. I know some fools, some Mexican fools. They were from Playboy Gangsta Crips, 23rd Street. When I grew up, they were from Playboy Gangsta Crip, and they were from a Cali-based hood. Down the road, I guess they got into it with their own homies. These fools stopped banging Playboys, and they had ties to the Norteños. And down the road, after I got out the penitentiary, they were Norteño fools. And I was like, oh, cuss. So I talked to the fool, and I said, bro, what was this all about, homie? Because you used to be I used to ride with you, homie, because I'm not feeling that. And he's like, bro, when you get to the pen, racial tensions and, and the Playboys did me dirty. I said, cuz you do understand that you put yourself, you put more of a target on your back being a Norteño than being a Chicano Crip out here. The Norteños don't get no place. Like, I heard that. I was like, yeah, if you were scared to be a Chicano Crip because you thought there was going to be pressure on your head, you really are going to have pressure on your head. And I want to see how these fools are going to break, because you already know, as soon as they hit that yard and they go in the unit and there's 5 to 10 of their enemies in that unit, you already know they're breaking, bro. You know what it is, man. Your boy Savage, Mo High salute. Toast it up. Have a good day, man. You see what that says. Jesus is coffee. Jesus and coffee. Alrighty, bro. Let's go.